Okay, should be ready to go. So I do have Picoto ready for some stuff to happen. So I'm painting today some animals that I shouldn't say really use, but I'm going to have them on the table as display pieces when I'm playing Earthborne Rangers because they have cards associated with them, but they serve no functional purpose in the game. I printed out some pictures from online and I taped the flimsy paper to some old hockey cards. So some of the things we'll be looking at doing today here is Oru, the sheepdog, Pakoto, the ferret, Riri, the sparrowhawk, and then I don't have a card for the raccoon. I shouldn't even say a card because these aren't cards; these are just pictures that I printed out. Because the little raccoon guy is from a path card, the kleptomaniac raccoon. Let me zoom in a little bit to where we'll be when I'm painting. Sorry about the shake, but I had to zoom. So here's a little kleptomaniac raccoon and some stuff that I added to the base that he has stolen. Adaptive multi-tool, boundary sensor, thumper, somebody's boot, and then just a pouch. Got those as little bits from just a whole bunch of other plastic sitting around the house. So I'm going to start with Pakoto's base, the rocks, because I want to put a wash on that, and then some of the bases of these other folks, because I want to wash it so that it can dry while I'm doing other stuff before I start dry brushing it. So let me get some gray. I'm just going to do a huge slap on of some stuff for Pakoto's base. So nothing too fancy or precise. We'll do, oops. This paint's getting old, so it didn't come out very well, and then it just squirted everywhere. All right, let's get a brush we don't care too much about. And just get these rocks painted gray. That was too much water. This is going to get covered up with a wash and a dry brush. So this gray is actually going to get darker too when the Agrath's Earthshade wash goes on it. And then we'll highlight it with a dry brush. Something I do for rocks all the time. I'm not too worried about hitting Pakoto because he's going to get painted, but it doesn't hurt sometimes to be careful. There's going to be some dirt coloration added to some of these edges too. I'm also not too worried right now about hitting the rim of the base because that's going to get painted over. We'll add some dirt right there. A little bit more. These minis are so small that I might have to like exaggerate some colors and exaggerate some contrast just so there's something to look at, something to see. The start of our rocks. Now let's get some earth. On the dirt. And I'm going to put this earth color on the basis for the other two of the other minis too, and then we'll try something different with Riri. I think I'm going to put a lot of like greenery onto Riri after, like grass tufts and stuff. And I'll probably put a grass tuft or some kind of greenery a little bit on here too, just to get more color on these minis. Because again, there's not a whole lot to do on the minis themselves, some of them, because they're so small. I'm not too worried about this brown and the gray blending because it's going to get covered up with the wash. Just want there to be some idea of dirt down here also. All right, so now we're going to let this dry before we wash it. And we're going to need more of this earth color. Let's do the raccoons first. Not too worried about hitting anything else. But it still doesn't hurt to be a little neat. I'm not going to be using too many transparent paints where I would need to go back and fix it up before I put it over it. But I'll be using some, and we'll see how things are shaping up on what I want to use. All right. And you can really see the different parts. Yeah, let's do Oru's. Now, I definitely don't want to hit his feet because I'm going to try to paint the armor that's on him first. There's not a whole lot of stuff on him in his photo on the card, or his drawing, his art on the card. But the miniature that I found that I wanted to use had a lot of armor on it. They were like adventuring dogs or something like that. I covered it up on the front here to make it look more like fur, and some on the bottom. But he still has quite a bit on him. So I want to paint that first and then just see how it looks with the white dry brushing that's already on him. Or if I just decide to go really ham with the white on his body. We'll see. And I want to get, I'm probably going to dry brush these bases too, which actually could be a little scary with trying not to hit Oru, I guess. Trying to hit the white that I want to keep, but I can always fix little pieces here and there. Okay, I want that to dry before it gets washed. Now let's see what happens if we put, we're going to do something a little bit different on Riri, just so we can have some variance. Because I took the time to do the undercoating with the priming and then the dry brushing. Let's put a transparent paint on here. This one is Agro Stoons. And I've used this before, and I think now that I'm putting it on here, I think I liked 2 coats of this for a ground. So with the undercoating, you get the dark spots and the highlights already as part of it because you're using a transparent paint. As opposed to needing to do a wash and then go back and dry brush. But I think I want to do a second coat of this after it dries. But we'll see what it looks like when it dries. Now, maybe we'll just put wildwood on the tree. While we wait. I guess I could do Oru's armor too while I wait and let stuff dry even more. Now, wildwood is nice, but it's super dark. But you can apply it lightly for a less dark wood look. So I'm taking most of it off of the brush here to do this. And this was like a trial and error lesson learned. The first time I used wildwood, I was putting it on like the other contrast paints, like, whoa, that's dark. That is a dark wood. The base here is definitely going to need some greenery on it just to add more color, because Riri is also going to be like some tans and browns. But there's a little bit of color in the art that we will look at when I get to that part. Okay. Got our tree. And I will go probably fairly light on Riri's front, just to contrast it away from the dark tree. All right, let's let that base dry a little bit. All right, let's talk about Oru's armor. So I'm going to go with a light color because there's a lot of armor here. And I want this staff over here to be darker, and these pouches are going to be darker. But it's still going to be shades of brownish stuff. Oru here is like looks like he's helping a shaper shepherd. So we've got like a conduit here on the side. So I think I'm going to use skeleton horde on the armor. Hopefully I have enough. Yeah. Oh man, this. It's going to make it easier for it to fall over, but my skeleton horde is one of the few ones that just always wants to close. All right. I'm going to try really hard not to hit the fur. I'm not too worried about hitting the pouches because they're going to be a darker color. I don't want to go back over it too much until it dries, because then you can get tearing of the paint, coffee staining. Whatever you want to call it. It's probably more better described as tearing of the paint. I've been doing most of this with this super cheap brush so far too, but it's working fine. Maybe I'll even use wildwood. Well, actually, maybe I want to go with something that looks like a shaper. One of the shaper art cards. We'll see. We don't have to get too crazy with it. We're also going to be adding a little bit of color to the front of his face, the tip of his tail. And I don't even know. I don't know why, but I keep referring to Oru as a boy dog and Riri and Pakoto as female bird and ferret, respectively. Okay, so we got some light colored armor on there. Hey, Bernd. Thanks, man. I've told you before about this method. I'll fly to Minneapolis and prime some for you, man. Yeah, but it helps. I didn't do this one that way because I knew that the method I wanted to use on the rocks was just going to cover it all up. So this one I'm just going straight wash and dry brush afterwards, because most of this thing are rocks that I put on there. This miniature was just this little ferret, and I green stuff blended it into the top of this bark to make it look like it's sitting on a rock. So it's going to be this little guy here. Pakodo the ferret. All right, so I think we're good on armor for now. Is there any white spots still showing through? I see some. Maybe I shouldn't worry about it. Famous last words. That's fine. Everything's fine. Oh, wait, I got to do the parse on his back legs still. I didn't try to cover up this stuff that was added back here. Or not added, but the stuff that was here initially. Because it would have just made the back legs too thick. So we are just going to leave a couple little armor pieces on his back legs. It's like some high socks, but his feet showing through. All right, let's put a darker color on the pouches. And I think I'm going to do Gorgrunta fur. Pouches. Done. All right. What's next? This paint looks like it's dry. So we're going to want to wash it now. Dry. Are all the nooks and crannies on here dry? No. So let's wait a little longer. Let's do a second coat on Riri's base. Let's make it a little bit darker. Helps if it's in the frame. There we go. Oh, I might still want to dry brush that anyway. We shall see. Oh, and I want these to get started on drying, so maybe I don't care that the other one's not quite done yet. I gotta be careful around the feet. And since this is dirt, like to really layer it on there. To show whatever nooks and crannies it can find. Like an Eggo waffle. Or what is that? No, English muffin. That's what it is. Thomas's English muffin. It's all the nooks and crannies. That might be a commercial from our days, Barrett. Back when we were wee lads. I think I'm going to use that same Gorgrunta fur on this pouch. Just to have a little bit of consistency. It's going to be a pain in the butt to dry brush this base. But I want to do that before I paint the raccoon so that I don't accidentally hit the raccoon with the wrong dry brush colors. All right, we gotta let that dry. Dry. Okay, let's. I think this is ready. This is going to get a dry brush too to lighten it up. But for rocks, I like to do a gray and then hit it with a lot of this Agrass Earth shade. Oh, there's a lot of paint right there. It's not going to mix well with the wash. And then go back and dry brush it up more. And I use this Agrass Earth shade instead of a Nuln Oil because it's dirt. It's rocks and it should probably look like it has dirt in it. But Nuln Oil is fine also. Just add shade. We're going to do a heavy, like aggressively light dry brush on the rock too. So it might look weird right now, but it'll get better. Sometimes painting minis is kind of like how I feel when I'm organizing or cleaning my house. It feels like it gets worse for a while before it starts to get better as you're laying stuff around and organizing, trying to figure out. Well, I mean, and let's be honest, it's more like The only thing I organize nowadays is my game room, probably. Mostly. You know what's funny that you say that, Bernd? I was just about to ask you if the Vikings play today. I can't remember if the Ducks play hockey today. We had a little gathering here at the house last Sunday, for their first home game. All right, so we'll let that dry and it won't be as glistening. And then like I said, we're going to go back with an aggressive gray dry brush to get the highlights to make it look more like a rock again. Just wanted to get those crevices. What are you going to work on, Bernd? Man, I almost feel like I want the front of Riri to be that skeleton horde color. I like the way this came out. Then I don't have to worry about dry brushing it. I see another white spot on the armor that I need to get. I've got my smog singers down here somewhere. I had to restart on my Crimson Croc. I wasn't happy with the gaps that were left on it, even though I had primed it and got a nice base on the hands and the body. I started over. Okay, what do I do now? Well, that stuff dries. I think I am going to go with Skeleton Horde on the front of Riri just to keep it light. But then what on the back? The back should be a little bit darker and gray. And then in the art, there's also like this like bluish green stuff that I want to try to add to the edges of the wings and maybe like the front of the face. I don't know. These minis are so small. The edges of the wings would be fine. And we're going to have to exaggerate the yellow on the feet, I think. Hey there, Doug. So, I don't know. Sparrowhawks have like well, there's more than one kind of sparrowhawk, I guess, but more than one pattern. The mini is so small, it's going to be hard to tell either way. But I think I like the idea of this light colored skeleton horde on the front. I was going to do a non-transparent paint. But why when this looks as good as it does? I don't know if it's going to be weird having like an all light front and then like a different colored back. But we'll see. Can always start over. Just have Barrett mail me some oopsie paint. And we'll do it again in a week. I have to wait till that dries and go back because it's not really sticking to a lot of it. Hey Brian, it's either or. I have a couple more Kinfires already recorded and in the hopper. I just haven't published them yet. I don't know if it really matters, but I'm trying to have a little bit of diversity on the channel, so I want to get some other stuff recorded before I post them, just so that it's not like a string of 1,000 Kinfire videos in a row. Um, okay, I'm gonna do these feathers all the same and the tail. Yeah, I saw, or I remember one of the streams, I think Colin was talking about wanting to play Kinfire with his family. I actually have, maybe I don't want to spoil it, but I have a Halloweeny type game set up on my table. I just haven't had a chance to play yet. So I don't know if you guys know or not. I know Bernd knows, but so I work in the tax industry. I run a tax company. It's a fairly large one, amongst other things, other businesses and stuff that we have. We have a tax prep side with about 4,500 clients, so it's a lot of clients. And in California this year, something happened earlier this year that doesn't happen a lot in California. It rained. It rained a little bit. So because it rained, the government decided to give Californians until October 15th as their first deadline to file their tax returns. So we didn't have that big of a rush in April. We had it staggered out over the year, and we had a little bit of a push the last couple of weeks leading up to the 15th of October. And then, and here's a good example of the brilliant minds in our government at work. At about 1 p.m. Eastern on October 15th, the IRS announced, you know what, we don't think that's enough time. You guys can have until November 16th now in California. And I was like, okay, why did you wait until halfway through the last day, the last possible day, to tell us people can have another month? We scrambled and scrambled and scrambled the last 2 weeks to try to get this crap done. And then all of a sudden you decide, no, let's give them another month, with no explanation of why they're giving us another month. So that was amazing. Yeah, so I got that going for me. All right. Let's put some gray on this Sparrowhawk. It's going to need a little bit more on some of the wings there. And we're going to need, again, to do the feet, we're going to do a super bright yellow on the feet. I don't know how this gray is going to look on here, but we'll see. It's not going to show up at all. Unless we probably do a couple of coats. Not showing up at all. Yes, it is. Brian. It makes no sense whatsoever. Like if someone hadn't done their return by noon on the very last day, they weren't going to do it anyway. What do I have in grays back here? Cloudburst blue, black, white, orc skin, runic gray. Let's see if this shows up at all. And I mean, this mini is so small, it's not like there's going to be a huge impact with any of this stuff that's happening here. Boy, is that the exact same formula as the contrast paint? We might have to go non-transparent here for it to look like it's having any impact at all. Or we go to the sewer color. I don't know. We'll see. Let's let it dry and then put more on. The white is just still coming through so strong. This gray is not very strong. I mean, it is in the recesses. Hardly getting any pigment on the rest of it, though. Yeah, I don't want it that white. So, let's let that dry. I need to add a little bit more skeleton horde onto there, and there's a spot on Oru that I need to fix. And I want this to be light, but I don't want it to be like too light. It's coming through a lot wider on the camera too than it is in person. I think that's maybe this light is too close or something. So it might be getting washed out a little bit on the camera versus what I'm seeing in, I almost said real life. The camera's real life too. In person, there we go. Any other spots on you, Oru? Oh, yeah. This gigantic piece right here. Right. Should I do wildwood for the staff or dry brush time? Oh, I should let this one dry a lot more. Before I start with the dry brushing. Inside those crevices, still wet. Sorry, let me get some water. I'm gonna let that stuff dry for a second. Barrett, I don't know if you've seen this or not. I was working on this last time. Since you're working on KDM stuff, I have to zoom out here for a second. Move the light. So here's my Dragon King. And I was working on the base last time. So I built up a custom base with some foam and some spackle and bark for rocks. And I took some stone face bases and cut it up and green stuffed, molded it in to the side and into the base. So it's got like a raised back so that instead of him looking at the characters kind of like this, his back is kind of up and he's kind of looking down on them, and he has a like a raised fist over here, and that raised fist sits on this rock right here. So once I get it, both of these things painted, I will pin him on here. But this is going to be a big dry brushing, or not dry brushing, a big airbrushing project, this dragon. All right. Let's get the light back here. Zoom in again. Maybe. Camera. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. That was weird. Didn't want to zoom. Sorry about all the shaking. Oh, you know what? Maybe I'm an idiot. Well, it depends on who you ask. But I think I was doing the opposite direction of the pinching for the zoom. Well, what can I do while that dries? Maybe work on his face and his tail. I don't know what I want to do with the staff. I don't want to make it be the exact same color as the pouches. I do have an old standby, like wood-y looking thing that I used to use a lot before I used wildwood. Beastie brown with a wash on it. All right. Uh-oh. Too much water on my brush. It's leaking. So here again, I'm covering up the prep work that I had done. Because I'm going with a solid acrylic color here, that's going to get washed. I didn't really have too much of a plan for colors and stuff going into this, other than trying to get somewhat close to the art, since I'm trying to pay homage to these characters. They're not really characters that you can play as your main character. I guess they are cards that can be your companions. And this little guy, Oru, is arguably the best card in there. If not the best card, he's definitely in the top 5 or so. And it really depends upon what your definition of best is. Okay, so I'll wash that. It'll bring the features and details back out and make it darker. And then I'll see about highlighting it. I probably won't. All right, now it's going to come the delicate. What do I do about his face? So I was trying to figure out this color on the face. It's like a tannish, grayish brown along the top of his nose and his forehead and along the side and the back of his tail. It's not really like just gray. But it could be, I guess. Maybe I'll start with a really washed out light gray. This one. I don't want to do straight black on the eyes either. So what do I have? Oh, I have this shadow gray. Maybe we'll use that around his eyes. We'll see. This I want to really water down. Barely use any on the brush. I don't even know if that's watery enough. So where I was freaking about the water that I had before, I want this to be watery. Now this is watery enough. I don't think it's dark enough though. But it's a good way to start the blend, I guess. I'm not going to have enough control to use that on the face, I don't think. Let's see what happens. Get that out of the ear. I think this is a good start to the blending. for the head. Don't want that in the eyeball either. Which I don't think it actually matters because the muzzle and around the eyes is all the dark. All right, so we need to go a little darker. Let's let that part dry. Need a completely dry brush. Okay, where did that dark one go? Put a touch of black over here. Just find something to mix if I want to go dark, dark, darker. I think I need more black. Needs more black. It keeps running into my armor. Where did I put the black? There it is. Hey, Matthew. Trying to get a really dark gray here, but not like completely black. Want that to dry. We're gonna have to try to fix that armor stuff around the tail. All right. Can I feather blend this still, or is it dry now? It's dry. Too dry. Let's go in slightly lighter color. Then I'm probably going to come back with, I don't know, maybe even a little bit of a dry brush or something. Or what can I do? I would say like a glaze or something, but I don't know if glazing in white is like a thing. But I think like a white dry brush on the head now. Because I've blocked in the area of the colors, but the areas need to blend a little bit better, which is not the easiest thing in the world to do when the minis are this small. I could try some watered down like white. Or this watered down dark color. Feather it a little bit there. Feather it a little bit there. I think I like the idea of a very, very light white dry brush on it. But I want to go a little bit darker on parts of the face here too. Black, where did you go? I don't know if I'm going to do anything more to the legs. I like the white that's there already. I'll show you the reference art here in just 1 second because I want to look at the face again on the reference art too after I make part of this even darker. So he's very white on his body and the legs, but then very dark on the front of his face and like a darker tip on the tail. So I'll probably dry brush a little bit here to get more white into the tail and then just a little bit of white highlights into the face. And this miniature is not from this game. So this is not like this miniature was not sculpted to match this. This is a miniature that I found on Amazon, I think, to just try to match this. That's why there's a lot more armor and stuff on this miniature than there is on the art. So we'll lighten up parts of the face, but I definitely want to keep the muzzle dark except for the top of the nose. And now I want to go back in and fix a little bit where some of the gray ran down onto the armor on the top. I think these bases are ready to be dry brushed now. What about Riri? We need to do something with the back of Riri here. I want that to be darker gray. Oh wait, maybe I like this color. Let's let that dry. Now we're going to introduce some blue-green to the edges of the wings. And maybe to the tail. I think. See, there's like a blue-green edge on the wings. There's not many. There are actually minis for the Rangers. They were add-ons. You can use them in lieu of the Ranger tokens. I don't have my pledge yet though. I'm having the same kind of luck as I had with Oathsworn. I'm probably in the last like 3% again of people to get their shipping notifications. I'm not sure what I did to the crowdfunding gods, but they hate me. Maybe it's the fulfillment gods. I don't know. One of them hates me. Yeah, you got to have bad luck somewhere. We all know where Derek's luck lies, but I guess we all got to have bad luck somewhere. All right, do I go extreme with the brown, with the dirt dry brushing and just go all the way up to bone white? Why not? He says. Switching to my dry brush palette. This is a very sophisticated dry brush palette. If you're interested, I can send you a link to where you get some. Most people call it corrugated cardboard. I have about 8 pallets of it in my garage. If you would like to buy some, I will send you one of these highly sophisticated dry brush palettes for a nominal fee. Is this the right color? Yes, it is, bone white. Do I want to use this brush? Where are my makeup brushes? I guess. I think your bad luck, Baron, is gravity. It makes you drop stuff everywhere all the time. We're going to go with this dry brush. This one is not a joke. This is not actually a dry brush. This is a Zoria blending makeup brush that we're going to use here. Am I even getting any? Oh, yeah. Just enough. I'm not too worried about this one because, like I said, I'm going to add a lot of greenery to this one, I think. I don't know if bone white's the right answer. See what it looks like with this. Let that dry. This particular texturing doesn't have a whole lot of actual large bumps to be caught by the dry brush on it. Now this one I need this smaller thing. This is an actual labeled dry brush that I've had forever. That probably came with something. Some set or something. Because it's Army Painter. Trying to stretch this paint as much as possible because I don't want to get any more out of the bottle. Oh, but I'm going to have to because I got a little bit of dirt on the ferret. What's this one? Oh, hey! I don't even need Bernd to ship me something. Got it right here, Wraithbone. Isn't that Oopsie Paint? I think that's Oopsie Paint. Oh, way to go. Said Bernd's name and something fell over. And some of these paints are getting old. It's like they won't come out of the bottle, and then when they do, because you're applying so much pressure, like I'm jetting out, and then you get too much. All right. Let's highlight this little bit of dirt. And then we're going to go to town with some gray on this rock. Maybe this cold gray. There we go. I like doing this. I think it looks really good. I don't know about this lighting situation. How well you can see, but it's definitely improved over just the base with the wash on it. I got to work on trying to get the colors and stuff maybe more vibrant on this camera. Hey, thanks, Matthew. This little tiny ferret miniature on this huge rock, which is actually tree bark, repurposed yard mulch. All right, I think I want to get a color onto Pakoto the ferret with a wash so that it can dry. And I want a really, really light tan because the wash is going to darken it. So what do I have that's a light? Maybe this khaki color? Oh, you know what? Nope, let's look in our two thin coats box. We got a lighter tan in there, I'm almost positive. So many paints everywhere. Is it lighter? Pretty close. About this one. Let's start with that and then wash it and see what happens. Temple stone? No, I want that one. If I use the Earthshade wash on Picoto, it's gonna brown it up and darken it up. And a gentle touch white dry brush on the head of Picoto there. Oh, I need to wash that staff on there still too. Do that at the same time that Picoto gets a wash. That might need to be shaken up a little bit more. Let's try it. This brush might be too big for the feet. Picoto has some stuff going on in the art as far as colorations go, but I think a lot of it is just shadows from the environment. And I mean, if I was going to spend forever in a day, maybe on something this small, you could get more interesting than just a couple of colors with a wash and stuff. What I think I might actually do is put this light color on it, then maybe come back even with some watered down khaki on the top. We're going to be relying heavily on the wash to show features. On this little tiny miniature. And even potentially another dry brushing. Just getting a light base coat down over the entire thing. Okay, let's take some watered down, whatever this color is here. Blend it into the top. All right, go down a step or two on the light. So it's a little bit darker on top than on the bottom. And we're going to let the wash play some magic with that. Thanks, Barrett. See you later. So, Doug, it's supposedly really good for solo play. I shouldn't say really good. It's supposedly just fine for solo play. Apparently, Andrew Navarro, who was one of the designers, and if that name rings a bell, he was the head of Fantasy Flight Studios for a long time. I shouldn't say a long time. He worked at Fantasy Flight Studios for a long time. He was the head of studio for a while and worked on a lot of their games there, along with Andrew Fisher, who was another designer of this game, worked at Fantasy Flight. Anyway, I think I remember him saying that he always did true solo when he was playing the campaign during playtesting. I've done a couple of times on the demo on Tabletop Simulator, but I always play two-handed. And a lot of times I play games two-handed because I don't know how often I'm going to get back to that particular game, and I want to try to see as much content as I can as far as like character powers and how certain classes play and different classes play and stuff like that. So I do a lot of two-handing when I play games. Yeah, I really want Picoto to be light, a light colored brown. So we'll see what happens with the wash and then maybe a dry brush. Because you have the dark gray rock. Like I said, and we're going to get some greenery, like I said before, with the addition of grass tufts and stuff. So we'll have a little bit of color on that mini from that. Okay, while I'm in the dry brushing mood, this is going to be delicate. I might actually want to try some true solo with this, though, just to see. Maybe not my first time playing. But there's a combination that I want to try with actually the background that uses these animals is the shepherd background. I want to do a shepherd shaper just to see how that goes. I know that probably doesn't, if you don't know the game, that doesn't make any sense, but there are different backgrounds and specialties and stuff that you play as to build your deck. And one of them is the shepherd that has access to this guy right here, Oru. And then a shaper in this world is kind of like a wizard, kind of, where they have a conduit. It's called a conduit staff that they have to use to be able to place some of their cards. Okay, this was a good idea. His face is coming out a lot better now with the dry brushing. So let's add some to the tail. Stay focused, camera. I don't know if it doesn't like this light or what. And I don't know what's better for you guys. Maybe can you see it better like this? Now with the dry brushing on the head. And on the ears. Trying to introduce a little bit more white because in the art, Oru is extremely white on his lower body. Maybe even a little bit more on the tail. I don't want to go overboard because I don't want to have to just like keep repeating steps over and over, but pretty close. Just need to work on this staff. I don't want it to be solid brown, and I got to go back with some more light for me to be able to see. What was I going to wash? Oh, I was going to wash Bakoto. Yes. Where is it? Maybe I'll try to do some different highlighting or something on his face just to add some kind of detail. We have to see what he looks like, or she. Wow, that's interesting. Earlier I was talking about how I always refer to Bakoto as a she, and then I just said he. It's always really shiny when the... Okay. When the wash is still drying. God, this is so small, it's really hard for you to see anything. But yeah, I'll probably, I don't know. Maybe I'll just dry brush Bakoto with a khaki or tan or something with that same color we used as the base to get highlights that way. But I mean, like as a comparison, like look at my pinky. This thing is so small. And no, I don't have huge pinkies. Oh, wait, why did I put that away? I need to use it on the staff. I want more. Let it dry. And maybe I'll add like, I don't know. I was thinking about adding some dots of color or something, but maybe not. Oh man, I did not get that part of the staff. That's gonna have to be washed when that paint dries. Okay, but what's the other thing I was talking about? Maybe we could work on our little kleptomaniac friend here. So there's a color I like to use for boots. Where is it this? Rhinox hide, yes. This could be dried shut. There we go. A little bit more. All right. We have a boot. Now, some of these tools do like have in their art for the game have like little lights and stuff on them. So I'll probably be doing a little bit of that. We're going with the same pouch color that's on Oru for this pouch here. Nicked myself with that bottle. Let's use this gray here for this boundary sensor. And uh, adapted multi-tool, which is what they're called in the game, but this is an axe from I don't know what, from some mini that I found in a bag in my area here. But the multi-tool on the card in the game looks like an axe, so I thought, why not? And for this thing that I'm calling a thumper, just start with this gray. It's going to get the wash on it. We'll add some lights or something. Don't need to go crazy with the accessories. So maybe we'll deal with the raccoon last. Put a dry brush on Riri, on the Pakoto. That's not light enough. Um, oh, that's what I wanted to use. Just that initial color that I went in there with on his body. Yeah, Pakoto, you're just so small, dude. Probably just have to go with that. I don't even know what other details I could add. I don't know. Let me see if I can highlight the ears with this. And maybe the nose. A little bit. Not gonna be able to get much more detail on Toto. I don't think I need to do much more to Oru. A little greenery on his base. All right, Riri. Let's see if we can't add this touch of green and blue, and I'm going to try to mix these two contrast colors. They are Aethermatic Blue and Orc Flesh to get a bluish green. Trying to go for that edging effect on the edges of the wings, and then maybe on the tips of the tail. Then we're gonna have to ever so slightly add some yellow to the feet, and we can try to yellow the beak. I want to mix a good amount of this just so that it doesn't dry out on me. Sorry, I bumped the camera. Is that the right color? More blue? More blue. This is what we're going with. It's not going to be a huge part. And I don't even know if it's going to show up. Just want to introduce a little bit at a time. I don't know if that's blue enough. Oh no, I touched the top of Riri's head. That's okay. Riri's eyes in the art are this same mix of green and blue. All right, let's introduce a little bit at the bottom of the tail. This is still very green. This maybe I'll come back with the blue. alone. Over top of it. I don't know if that's going to even do anything. Oh no. I knocked over Oru. The green might be too strong. We've got some color introduced there. There we go. That second coat. In person, I can tell. That now it's leaning more blue. I gotta fix the top of the head. That's gonna bother me. Just need to... I actually wonder. Lighten up the chest a little bit as compared to the wings. I gotta figure out how to get a better shot on the camera. But then again, I keep saying it. These miniatures are so small. You have to do really big leaps in the contrast of the colors in order to see anything. As far as a difference goes. Will it focus this close? So we got a little bit of the blue-green on the top of the wings. I showed it before, but like you can see the blue-green on the top of the wings in the art there. I want to get the wash drying on these tools. So this time I'm going with Nuln Oil instead of Agrax Earthshade. Agrax Earthshade. I think I added a weird H there when I just said that. I like the old formula so much better. The old formula of the shades from Games Workshop, or washes, whatever you want to call them. All right, a couple more details on Riri. Then we got to start thinking about the raccoon. ever so slight touch of yellow for the feet. And I want it to be exaggerated yellow to start with. Just so you can actually see it. And see it might be a stretch. All right. All right, what's going to be the plan for the raccoon? He's going to have to get cleaned up on the back there. Obviously, we're going to put stripes in his tail, and he's going to have his mask on his face. I wish I had a decent gray, like a gray that would color it nicely. As far as a contrast color, I mean, goes. What about in the speed paints? Great Lord Gray. Because they should be pretty gray. I need to... Where's my white? Over here. It's hard already. Where did I get some? All right. Let's try this. If we're going to have to go with hard acrylics, then I don't mind putting a color on first, then I can just cover it up. This one might be too dark. And then I say that and then it barely goes on. This is more black. This is more like a black wash than a gray. All right, so I don't think this is the answer. but we should let it dry just to be fair to it. I don't know, maybe if I lighten up the face and then do the stripes on his tail, his body will be fine like this. Lighten up the face, do the mask, and stripe the tail. So, what else is there to do while that dries? I guess we could add some stuff to the bases. Getting some stuff out of the way. Do I need this right now? Maybe not. He definitely needs there's enough detail on his face where I can play with being able to see the mask on the face, and the tail is big enough where we can be able to paint stripes on the tail. Okay. Mod Podge. Super glue. Patch of grass. Patch of grass. We'll do a tuft. Why is this stuff so clumpy? Shouldn't be this clumpy. Dodge dries. That's gonna look better. And we are also going to add a tuft of grass and probably a bush. Tweezers. Tuft of grass. I might go with this grass on my other one. Yeah, we'll see. Bush. I want a small patch of darker grass behind that other one. That's where our bush is going to be. Glue, 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 glue. Uh-oh. Oh, come on. Teeny tiny piece. Well, that ended up being a lot. So that white glue needs a while to... Oh, see you later, Brian. So we got a mix of different shades of green, different types of grass, and some bushes that help add color to what otherwise would be mostly brown. Now, Pakodo. We're going to shove a big bush growing into and out of the crack in the rock there. I don't know if this is going to stay together, but we'll try it, see how it comes out. You might have to hold it for a bit. So the good thing about this white glue is that it's going to dry, you know, transparent. And the more of it that like soaks into these bushes, it'll help strengthen it up. All right, now let's add a tuft of grass right there, a small one. These tufts of grass are supposed to be self-adhesive, but I like to add super glue anyway. Thanks, Matthew. I almost feel like there should be another, maybe another little bush up here in that crevice. Just a little something. Like from the back side, it looks kind of boring. I want to make sure this stays up here. Yeah, see, it's already coming off. Because I like the way it's wrapping around the rock like that. Okay. Kodo and Riri. Don't know how much. Well, okay, so let's get back to painting. We can work on some basing again in a minute because we got to finish our raccoon here. Can't go. Right, I want to try to lighten up his face. This might ruin it, but I'll lighten it up before I put the mask over his eyes and stuff. Now this is really watery, so it's going to dry differently than what we're seeing at the moment. And he's going to get the mask, so trying to go a little bit lighter so that, because the face is often like a focal point on miniatures. So I'm introducing a little bit of water to try to get up some of that color that I just added here, so that we can still see some of the recesses, and it's kind of shiny and hard to see right now, but it'll dry. Darker. Some stripes. I need that water to dry though. Okay, how much of a raccoon's face is actually the mask? Just the eyes and then the nose and stuff. It's actually very, very white around it. Okay. So let's exaggerate this even more. Because the nose and the rest of the face was kind of like framing the mask. So we exaggerate a lot to start with. And the stripes on the tail are actually exaggerated as well. at least on the photo that I Googled just now on my phone. I think even more so than that as it starts to dry. Stuff usually does what's called drying down. Drying down means that as it dries, it gets darker. So that was even drying down a little too far. Okay. It's going to highlight a little bit of the body. This lighter color too, watered down. Jeez, this dries down a lot. Okay. This is a delicate operation here. His nose is supposed to be black. No, Kanjay, Derek, it has not arrived yet. These are not miniatures from the actual game. I'm a crazy person, so I decided to find some miniatures that look like some of the cards and paint them because I was running out of other miniatures to paint. And if you buy that, I'll sell you some oceanside property in Arizona at the same time. I printed out some references from some of the cards in the game. So these little animals, the first character I'm going to play has access to these two animals, and this is going to be an inclusion into the deck that you get as what's called an outside interest. So I'm just painting some stuff for the thumbnails and the video intro and to sit on the table that has absolutely nothing to do with the gameplay. Yeah, it's looking like it's going the way of the Oathsworn curse for me there, Derek. So I'll let you know when it when it comes in, so I can ship you your part. See, over exaggerating the colors helps on such small little miniatures to see the raccoon's little face here. His tail needs a little bit of work. Oh, and just so you know, Derek, as opposed to like every other Kickstarter ever made, one of the components for this game actually was cheaper by $10. So the playmat that you got was cheaper by $10 when all was said and done. So I have that from you. I can put that towards the shipping cost to get it to you. All right, so these are supposed to be like futuristic tech pieces, and some of them have lights and stuff on them. So let's add some little dots. I'm actually not running out of miniatures. I could probably live 6 lifetimes and not run out of miniatures. Or I just need to retire. Wouldn't that be nice? Let's do a little bit of a light blue light on it, and then we're going to color it on the lights. Or techie bits or whatever. He's just an innocent little. So the story about this is a card that's in the game. Oh, so this is a spoiler, but it's not really that much of a spoiler because this card was already shown like in a demo run that was done 2 years ago on Team Covenant's channel. So I guess it's not really that much of a spoiler. But there's a card you can encounter that's called the Kleptomaniac Raccoon. And he steals uses and tokens off of your gear. Or does he steal your gear entirely? He might steal your gear entirely, your gear card. Anyway, he steals gear, basically. So what I did was I got the raccoon and I put little bits of gear on it, like things that he has stolen. And they kind of look like different things from the game. Like there's a thing called the adaptive multi-tool that looks like an axe. So that's what this is supposed to be. There are these things that you put in the ground that kind of look like this that are called boundary sensors. There's a weapon kind of thing called the Orland Thumper that kind of looks like this staff thing here. And then there's boot gear in the game, and there's a belt pouch. So he has stolen a belt pouch, a boot, and a bunch of stuff. So he's the little kleptomaniac raccoon. Okay, I feel like I need to add some basing stuff to these two. I think instead of the static grass, like on Riri, I think I'm going to do, where did I put it? I'm going to do this grass instead. So let's spread some Mod Podge around Oru's base. What did I do with that? Oh, here it is. The glue on. Oops, dang it. Sorry. Hitting the microphone, hitting the camera. Okay. This is a thrilling shot for you, I know. This looks pretty gross until the glue underneath dries because you got a lot of white coming through from the glue. But it'll get better. He says confidently. So I think I'm going to add a tuft of grass right here and maybe a teeny tiny bush right there, and then that's going to be it for Oru. But what do I do for you? I just want small little patches of grass, I think. Teeny tiny patches. Ish. Teeny tiny ish. And not a lot of it. I don't think I'm going to put any tufts of grass or anything on this one. And that again, it doesn't look awesome while the glue is still wet because there's too much white coming through. While I have the Mod Podge out, let's look for a tiny bush. This isn't necessarily tiny, but it's fine. It'll be fine. We will use Mod Podge instead of the elementary school stuff this time. Since I have it out. And I feel like there should be lots of vegetation because we're out in nature during this game, traversing the lands. And grass tuft. Dark green. Maybe one of each. So most of these dark green ones have more like color variety in them, but it's fine. It'll be fine. I said I didn't want to add anything to the raccoon, but I might. I see a spot where something interesting could go. Bush and grass tuft. So I gotta do the victory lap around the rim of the bases before I call it on these. Can't resist. This time I think I do actually want a really small bush. Just to go in the front there. I already closed the Mod Podge. What I do with the kindergartner glue? Here it is. Little bush up front. Maybe another bush and a tuft of grass. Ooh, a bush underneath the head of the adaptive multi-tool. Sounds like it has started raining. Is this going to fit or is it too big? It's too big. And now it's falling apart. I like that though. I'm going back and covering up where I had grass, but it's fine. The grass will still be seen underneath there. This adds even more to the story that part of his hull is laying on a bush. Part of his stolen goods. I think a tuft of grass right there. Or do I just keep going with bushes? I feel like something on this side and this side. The problem is the base is so... No, it'll be fine. We're going to get a smallest one we've got in here. This one. I'm not worried, like I was saying, I'm not worried about it looking like an overuse of vegetation because they're supposed to be like out in the wild, out in nature. All right, let's do the rims and call it. For these minis that aren't even characters you play in the game. Put these glues away. Close these up before I knock my supply. Small bushes everywhere. All right. Pro Acro Black is almost gone. Uh-oh. This is my new favorite black for the rims. It does take 2 passes, though. So we gotta do 2 laps. Oh, thunder. There's just something so satisfying about seeing the miniature when it's done and has its base solidly painted, especially if it's been Like take a look at this one where it has the paint that went over the lines and stuff. So when you're just crisping it up, making it look more solid and finished, I guess. That's why I save it for last and I call it my victory lap, because that means I'm done with that miniature. Normally I do the rim though, I guess, when I consider the painting to be done. So normally I do the like the basing stuff, like adding the greenery and stuff. Gosh, I keep hitting the camera. Sorry. Normally I do the greenery after I paint. Just because you don't want to accidentally hit one of your bushes or something with the rim paint. You want green bushes, not black bushes. Koto's base is out of control here, and see this is why, because these little threads on this one here are hanging down. I mean, I kind of want them that way in the end, but I do not want them to turn out to be black. They need to be green because they're a plant. Okay, first trip around done. Second trip around. It's mostly dry. Oh, we're done. It is actually raining really hard right now. All right, Riri. Ian Koto, you still got some spots that need to dry, buddy. I'm sure me blowing on it is helping tremendously. Okay. I'm going to call our Earthborne Rangers miniatures for the animals that I have so far done. Maybe I shouldn't have zoomed out. Okay, let's look at them one at a time. Let's start with the raccoon because he doesn't have a card to look at. This isn't the best lighting. I'm going to see what it looks like with the lights turned off. That's better for you. Maybe. So this is super hyper zoomed in. I'm not happy with the blending on his head. Maybe I'll fix that. But I like the way his face looks with the parts of the eyes that are in the mask and a little black on his nose. All the little things that he has stolen. So here's our reference art for Riri with the interesting blue-green lining on the wings. And this is our super small hawk miniature, but probably to scale. Got some coloration on the top of the wings, and then gray back, a little bit of coloration on the tail feather. And I said at the outset that this one was going to have a lot of vegetation on its base. And we got Picoto, just a picture of a ferret on a rock. So I went super huge with the rock because, oh, come on, focus. Because the little ferret miniature is so small. Stay focused. And is my hands bothering the camera? Probably. Now, this miniature is tiny, like I was shown earlier, like compared to my pinky. And then here we've got Oru, the sheepdog. Darker color tip on the tail, darker color face, and then extreme white on the bottom with some like a pack and stuff. So here we go with our sheepdog. Packs, white fur, and stuff and things. Okay. That's going to be it for today. It is really raining. I don't know if you guys can hear that. I probably already said that. So if you're here still, thanks for hanging out. I hope you enjoyed seeing these from start to finish. And when I do actually get the miniatures of the Rangers for this game, I will also be painting those. Probably taking a little bit more time on each figure. They're slightly larger and I can do more detail on those. And they're actually used as Ranger tokens in the game. So we will get those based up and painted up nicely as well. Okay, thanks for hanging out. Hope you enjoyed. And like I say, I hope you enjoy everything I put up on the channel. I'll see you in the next one.